if you are sitting in a space where the waiting feels unbearable, I want you to remind yourself that the in-between time is not wasted time. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it sucks. Yes, you're desperately wanting for this in-between to be over. But it's actually some of the most important time in the whole process, because it is here where you get space to figure out who you want to be on the other side. When we rush through something, we miss the ability to get really clear on what we want. Because while the legal system or your ex is moving at a snail's pace, you get to decide who you are becoming. He doesn't control that timeline. The courts don't control that timeline. Only you do. Welcome to the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast dedicated to helping women navigate the emotional journey that is divorce. I'm your host, Erica, and if you're trying to figure out life after the big D, welcome to the club. Whether you're contemplating divorce or dealing with the aftermath or any of the many phases in between, the club has got you covered. Each week, you'll hear stories from women who have been in your shoes. This isn't about spilling tea on divorce details. This is about giving you the tools to take control of your own healing journey. Listen in weekly for advice, tips, and tools to help you move through each stage of the process. Welcome back to another episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club. Friends, I am straight off the plane yesterday from a fantastic 10 days in Ireland. More to come about that, but can we laugh for a hot second? Because I went and got my traditional Starbies this morning. I'm always a iced Americano or a iced soy latte, and it just tastes like watered milk. No bash on Starbucks. I just got real used to that real cup of coffee every morning. We will make it through. We will adjust back. And isn't that kind of the whole point of life? We're constantly experiencing, looking at what do we like? What do we want to keep? What do we want to adapt in our own world? And then continuing to move on. So today, I actually wanted to chat about a DM that I received. So Tiffany, this episode is for you. Tiffany had sent a message, paraphrasing here, but her papers have been filed, but they're still doing some negotiation, some court proceedings. They're still cohabitating. There's no signature yet. And so her entire life feels like it's being held hostage. The ex is stalling. He's kind of dragging it out. He's making things a little bit harder. And everything feels really unsure because nothing is in writing yet. So she can't move forward. She can't start to plan the next chapter, but everyone has agreed that divorce is the next step. Like this is done, but the new chapter hasn't begun. What do you do in the in-between? How do you stay regulated? How do you get clear on what you want? How do you just survive day in and day out? And I know that everyone who feels exactly like this, you're stuck in the gap. We're minding the gap in between of what is ending and where we are going. And it might be the hardest part of the whole process because we can't just take action. Because the divorce is decided, but it's not final. And you've heard me say it. I want to remind you, the signature on the paper, it doesn't change anything. You think that that signature is the finish line, and the signature is just the beginning. But it is so difficult to stay in the unknown. Whether this is about your divorce or perhaps your post-divorce and you're trying to move forward. For me, I can describe this exact same feeling when it comes to trying to call in the next house that we're going to live in. It's been a long process. It's been something that I wish we could just take action on. Could we just find the answer and make it happen right now? And it feels so frustrating, so defeating, so overwhelming to stay stuck in the space of, I know I don't want to stay here any longer, but I can't take action to move anything forward. Today, we're going to look at what can you do right now and what can you do to set you up for success to be able to move forward. So when you're in this sort of a position, the answer, the finish line, the thing isn't done yet, but you know it's coming. You're in this holding pattern. And what happens when you're in a holding pattern is your nervous system is always on edge. It's always scanning. Everything becomes an uncertainty. Everything becomes I can't start to plant roots to move forward in this way because what if everything changes? Which means your body and your brain are scanning for threats. They're always looking to see what might change. They don't want to set plans or hopes or goals because who knows if it's even going to be a possibility. And everything feels like a big unanswered question. Where will you live? What will finances look like? What will co-parenting schedule look like? When will it actually be over? For me in my house example, where will it be? When will the plot of land or the existing house show up? What will the financing look like? When we don't know, our nervous system treats every new piece as another emergency, as is another thing that it has to be ready for. Unknown equals danger when it comes to how your nervous system responds and how your mind chooses to look at things. So before we talk about anything else, I want you to know that when you're in these positions, it isn't because you're weak. It isn't because you're indecisive. It isn't because you don't know what to do. It isn't because you're falling apart. It's your nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do, which is to protect you. So to protect you, it's going to keep you in the same patterns. When this happens, I like to think about a plane. So, especially because I just flew home. But have you ever been on a plane where it is approaching landing? It's like that last 20 to 30 minutes. You can start to see the plane starts to go down. The aisle is tilted a little bit forward. You can hear some things shifting. They're kind of moving through, cleaning up the last remaining pieces. And then you hear the pilot come over the PA system and he says something to the effect of, "It's a little busy at the airport right now. We're just going to do a few loops and wait for them to open up the runway for us." And how defeating does that feel? You're so close. You're so close to being done with the flight. You're so close to being able to get on to the next chapter. And now you're stuck up in the air making laps. And I like to bring that image to my mind anytime something feels like it's never moving forward. Because a lot of times what we're actually looking for is the perfect path to be able to bring it down at the right time, at the right place, with the right people. And so if you sit in that spot of, oh, this is never going to get decided, or nothing is actually moving forward, I just want you to picture that little airplane making some laps around the airport, waiting for the perfect moment, and leverage this time to be able to build more clarity for yourself, to get clearer. For me, I'm getting clear. I'm pinning away on, where do I want to live? Do I not want to live? If we lived in this neighborhood, what would it feel like? What would the drive home look like at night? Is this what I want in my life? Same holds true no matter what place you are in divorce, whether you're in the middle of waiting for it to be final or you're rebuilding. Anytime something doesn't come along as fast as you want it to, and I am so guilty of this because I'm incredibly impatient. And when I decide I want something, I want it now. And so when the thing isn't showing up as fast as you want, I challenge you to use that time to get clear. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that practice actually looks like, because it is going to be so powerful in helping you be able to build what that next chapter looks like even before it starts. So if you're in this spot, if you are waiting for something to finally fall into place, if you're just hoping that you can get to the next checkpoint to be able to move on, there's a few things that are going to be really important for you. First, you are a human having a human experience, and so is your ex. So let's talk a little bit about this experience of, if your ex is prolonging the process, if they're, going back on things they agreed to, if they're really digging in their heels. Your ex is in a space of resistance. They don't want to. And the more you push, the more they are going to resist. And this is where I bring in that constant reminder that we are all humans having a human experience, which means that when our system gets flooded, our nervous system says, whoa, don't move forward. And that's probably exactly what's happening to your ex. So it doesn't mean that their behavior is okay. It means that when we look at it through that lens of, oh, they're not doing this directly against me. They're doing this because of some shit that's happening in their own body, their own world, their own mind. We can disconnect from it being a direct attack on us. We can disconnect from it meaning that they are trying to get in the way of the life that we're trying to build. It also means that we need to work on your side of boundaries, how you protect yourself, because it's super important that you extend grace to yourself and to your ex. And I know that can be very difficult, because a lot of times when we think about extending grace, we think about excusing their behaviors. We think about allowing them to continue. We think about it almost being like a pardon of, whatever you do, it's okay. Not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you are in a very uncomfortable space that you have never had to walk through before. Honor that. Acknowledge that. And so when it is hard and when it is shitty and when you just don't want to do it anymore, you just so desperately want to be at the finish line, want this to be over, want to know that there was a reason it all happened and that you are okay. That's the moment that you lean into giving yourself grace. Yeah, this is hard. Yeah, this is new. Yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know that I've gotten through 100% of hard things in my life. I know that I've always found the right answers. And I know that I can trust the guidance that I'm getting from my heart, not my body, not my nervous system, not the triggers that are going on, but my heart. My heart knows. But that grace that you apply to yourself, I'm suggesting, I'm a big proponent of, you also extend it to your ex. A lot of people did not agree with me when I did this during my separation and my divorce. I think for me, full transparency, I extended so much grace, nothing wrong with that. Needed to also strengthen my boundaries. So I got better at strengthening boundaries as time went on. But when it first started, I just extended a lot of grace. He's just a human having a human experience. He doesn't know what he's doing, or he's reacting to emotions, or he's going through a hard time too. And I needed to partner that with the boundaries. So, like, yes, guess what? You can have your feels and you can have your moment, and it doesn't continue to affect me. So grace isn't letting him off the hook, but it is unhooking yourself from the weight of it. It unhooks you from it being a direct attack or something they're doing to you or something that is happening to you. And instead, we can start to shift into, how can I leverage this? Because here's the deal. You can't change it. I mean, I guess officially you could if you really wanted to go in there pit bull fighting head to head. You probably won't get through it any faster. And in the wake of a big divorce fight is a lot of damage that doesn't have the systems of repair that it did when you were married to that person. And so it's like that tornado blows through, and does it get the job done and rip everything up? Yeah, but it leaves so much destruction that, for me, not a fan of it. I don't think that that's the way you build forward, because especially if there's kids in the middle, you have to continue to work with this person. And so if we have to continue to work with this person, if this is somebody that we loved at one point, why would we want to cause so much harm? Same applies for them, but they're not listening. You are. So all we have control over are the things that we can change from our side. And I'm telling you, when you choose to shift the energetics and you extend more grace, more understanding, while also still clarifying your boundaries, what you need, what you expect, what you thought you were working towards, they will change with you. Because people resist things that are scary, that move too fast, that trigger them, that a lot of times cause some sort of upset deep within their system that they're not even clear on. They think that they are resisting or delaying or slowing things down for the conditions, the nitty-gritty details. I don't agree that you should have that TV. That TV should be mine. Or I don't agree that you should have 3 more days every month. This should be different. It's not about those specific details. It is about something deeper underneath that most people are not aware of or able to deal with in the moment. So we extend a little grace and we say, hey, yep, I get it. And we choose to continue to focus on our side of the street. So you don't have to like what he's doing. You don't have to agree with what they're doing. You can be pissed. You can be pissed. You can vent. You can rage about it. You can scream. You can cry. You can journal. You can have all the feels, but don't let it consume you, because it is not something we can control. What you can control is how you choose to process it on your side. And more importantly, especially when something is not showing up as fast as you want, how are we leveraging the time in between for our benefit? Because we can spend all the time in between from when we know what the next step is to when it actually happens. And we can either just wallow in the fact that it isn't here yet, and I'm trying so hard, and I just want this to be over, because we don't want to hurt anymore. That makes that whole time until it happens feel a lot slower, a lot harder, and a lot longer. So let's flip that switch. You have the control over your thoughts, over how you choose to see things. You have control over that instantly. Is it easy? No, not always. It depends how much momentum is going, but you always hold the power to do that. So when we can reframe the space in between as a gift, my separation lasted 2 years. I spent a couple years after that beating myself up for wasting so much time and waiting. And the reality is that 2 years was a gift. I figured out who I wanted to be. I was at peace with letting go of a chapter that was no longer there. I had started to play the manifesting game, and amazing, amazing things were showing up in my life. Everything was working out because I had a 2-year season, a placeholder that in the day-to-day felt like shit. In the day-to-day of not knowing what was going to happen next, it was exhausting and it was overwhelming and it was brutal. And now, 10 years later, that 2 years, oh my God, what a gift to get my feet underneath me, to feel stable and to know what I wanted to do next. So let's talk about that short-term tool, because this was a thing I used religiously. So what do you actually do when the anxiety spikes? Because a lot of what's happening of when you're in, here's where we are now, present moment, and here's where I want to go. What's happening in your nervous system is anxiety, worry. What underlies worry, anxiety, doubt, frustration, all of it is layered over fear. There is a fear. I'm afraid that I'll never be able to move on. I'm afraid that too much time will pass. It'll get too late. I'll lose all this time to be able to do what I want to do. So what do you do when anxiety spikes? When you get that message from your lawyer, he sends you into a spiral. When your ex texts, when you are supposed to have an answer at 5 p.m. that day and it is 6 and it is crickets on your phone. Or what I am very guilty of is the 3 a.m. worst case scenario spiral in the middle of the night that I can't seem to get myself lined back up to. What you need in those moments is a short-term anchor, something that grounds you, something that brings you back into your body, into the present moment, and out of the story that your mind is spinning. We don't need any future trip in here. We need to stay in the present moment. Now, that's really easy to say when your physical sensations are driving the anxiety train at 100 miles per hour. It's really hard to just say, oh, pick a new thought. That's not the way it works. But there is a tool that I absolutely love that I will tell you saved my life. And I've most recently started reaching for it again. And not because I was in the deep grips of an anxiety riddled panic attack, but because I knew that I could leverage that same magic of how we regulate our nervous system to be at peace in the moment, to ride the wave, to be able to stay present instead of spiraling into the unknowns of what's coming. It's called the shift. I have a trillion of them sitting on my desk right now. Actually, there's 4. I'm going to show you this guy. If you're watching, I actually am holding up the cuff, which is a bracelet. So there's a necklace that I wear all the time. Trying to see if I have my necklace is actually up in my suitcase because I took it with me. But the cuff is another nice one. And this is the piece right here. Our breath is our only conscious way that we can activate our parasympathetic nervous system. Your nervous system is comprised of 2 parts, rest and digest, and fight or flight. We spend a lot of time activating our fight or flight. Fight or flight has evolved. Flight, fight, fawn, freeze. There's a whole bunch of deeper levels of bullshit that our nervous system is trying to do to protect us. It is a beautiful, beautiful system when it is working correctly, when it is firing on all cylinders, when you know that you can trust the alerts that it's giving you. It is a powerful tool. When it has been living in a survival story or when it is living in a huge gap of unknown, you can't always trust the signals it's giving. So that is where the shift came in to play. No matter where I was in the middle of the night or at work or in the afternoon or at night after my son went to bed before I went to bed and that anxiety hit, I knew that I could grab this little tool and I could just start breathing through it. Now, when you breathe through the shift, it is designed to help slow your breath down. It also adds a little resistance. Now, you could ask me, Erica, can you just breathe through a straw? Can you just breathe through pursed lips? I mean, you can, but I'm just going to tell you it's completely different. And I was a big fan of being like, oh yeah, just swap them out. Today, I tell you, hell no. Today, I tell you, after leveraging this again in the last month, there is something so incredibly magical about having the support of a tool. And so all you do is when the anxiety hits, when you start spiraling, when you start future tripping, when you start worrying or judging about past behavior, should I have done this? Should I have said this? Should I have stop all of that by pulling out your shift and taking 5 deep, slow breaths. When we activate our parasympathetic nervous system, it shifts us out of fight or flight, and it does it instantly. Now, the more you use it, the longer it lasts. So recently I started using it not because life was hard. There were definitely some moments, right? Aren't there always moments? That is what life is. But because things were really full. And so I wasn't having anxiety, but I was starting to feel a little bit of overwhelm, especially before the trip. I was trying to record and edit and pre-schedule multiple podcast episodes and clean up a bunch of projects before I left. And so as I was sitting there working late nights, I could feel the tension, the anxiety, that ickiness that our nervous system starts to trigger. The warning bells were going off. Ooh, you're pushing too hard. You're pushing too hard. You don't know what's coming. You're going to crash and burn. And instead, I grabbed my little shift tool. I started breathing while I was editing, while I was sending out the emails. And you know what happened? An instant shift into calm, an instant shift into I've got this, an instant shift into this is really fun. It's really fun to be able to expand my capacity and get all this stuff done and tick everything off the list. That's maintenance, not a crisis. Both of them are crucial in being able to move through all the phases of divorce and transformation and rebuilding your life. So if you are stuck in that unknown, if you are getting triggered, then you need the shift, because when the ish hits the fan, you're going to grab it and you're going to breathe. And that's why it is so important to be a wearable device, whether you like the cuff, whether you like the necklace version, both of them have the same piece, but they're beautiful. Nobody even knows that you're wearing a breathing tool to help with anxiety. People commented on it all the time. I've got it linked in the show note. I've got my discount code in there too, because I am an affiliate for them, because I feel so strongly about the power of this tool. And if you are sitting there like, oh, I really don't need to buy a tool. Ladies, I taught meditation. I taught breathwork classes. And when the shit hit the fan, I could not make the choice that I needed to make, because your nervous system will override your logical thinking. Go back to the other F Word podcast episode, or send me a message if you want me to send you the link directly. But literally our brain has evolved from, the old brain, the reptilian brain, your nervous system part, the just stay alive part, and has added a couple other pieces that have evolved past it. But when you get triggered, your blood flow only goes so far into that brain. Obviously, the blood flows all over in your brain, but you know what I mean? You can't fire into the other sections. I can't reach your logical brain if we're in a state of fight or flight. That is where the shift gives you that pause. It gives you the power to be able to take the breath and say, oh, that story that's running on autopilot right now, that's not true. My story, oh, we're never going to find a house because I'm never going to be able to pay for it because blah, blah, blah. I know that that's not true. But my mind likes to tell me it's true when my body says I'm worried about something not being here now. So you're in the processing. You're not getting the paperwork back. He's just sent another email or made another comment or done another thing to resist what you're asking for. Literally in that moment, I want you to grab the shift and I just want you to take 5 deep breaths. And the only thing you're going to say is, this is hard and that's okay, but I'm going to get through it. This is hard and that's okay, but I'm going to get through it. So short-term anchors like breath work, like using the shift, only work if you're also protecting your energy. Now, how do we protect our energy? Boundaries. And boundaries aren't walls. They're things that make grace possible. Boundaries are how do you describe it without using the word boundaries? It is the fence. It is the line of how far we can extend ourselves and still be loving. When there's a lot of stress in your life, that line is probably not very far outside of just maintaining yourself. And that's okay. But you need to be clear on where those boundaries are, so that when we extend grace and say, oh, they're a human having a human experience. I understand that he's resisting, he's emotional, he's not ready for the divorce. At the same time, we need some boundaries. I'm going to remove myself from this conversation. I'm not going to get into an argument or a debate with him again as to why divorce is the right option. No, I'm not going to entertain the idea that we go back to therapy again. What are those boundaries? What are the things? How do you take care of yourself so that you can still operate from a loving place, and a place that believes in, extending grace and abundance? Abundance, we all win. We can all survive this. We can all get through this and have something good on the other side. But you cannot extend grace from an empty tank. You cannot be loving from an empty tank. You cannot be understanding from an empty tank. And there was a reel recently that said something to the effects of, I cannot be fun and hungry at the same time. Valid. Those are boundaries for me. So what does a boundary look like when you are in between? Now, the biggest thing I want to call out again is a boundary is not something they're going to do different. A boundary is not, you're going to respond to my email by 5 p.m. The boundary is, if I don't have an answer by him by 5 p.m., what do I need to do to help my system regulate? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to turn my phone off? Do I need to call a friend? What do I need? What can I give for myself so that I can deal with the emotions, the things that are coming up? So another great example of a boundary: don't discuss all the legal details with everyone. I know that it can be very tempting when somebody asks you how it's going to unleash all of the emotional turmoil that you've been carrying, because it's a lot. But we've got to get really clear on who deserves a seat at that table and who doesn't. Because the more we talk about it, the more we ruminate in the negative part of it, the bigger and more overwhelming it feels. And what also happens, more people get behind you. Oh my gosh, what an asshole. He's such a jerk. You should fight. You should push back. Does that help you in the long run? No. Very few people knew the full extent of the details of my marriage while the separation and divorce were going on. In fact, most people didn't even know we were separated. And they definitely didn't know we were living apart because it wasn't their business. Because I had to get clear on what I wanted and where we were going. And the more people that took sides or added opinions was going to make it harder. Another great example, I want you to really look at, how do you protect your mornings and your evenings from the chaos? How do you protect yourself from the chaos of your ex or your soon to be ex? Do you put their messages on silent and choose to look at them when you are ready? Do you take a walk before you look at any messages from your ex? Do you use one of the co-parenting apps so that all of the communication with your ex are in one space that you can access when you're ready? What do you need in the morning? And even more so, if you guys are still cohabitating together, because with the prices, the mortgages, and the housing prices, and all of the things going on right now, this is a very real situation. We lived in the same house for 6 months, something like that, until he moved out. Neither were great. Both had crappy pieces that you had to deal with. But what do you need to do to protect your mornings and your evenings, especially if you're cohabitating? Are there certain times? Can you ask for certain time blocks where you guys rotate through who's in the house and who's not in the house? Can you ask them to give you a heads up? Now, again, whether or not they do it, you can ask, you can make the clear request. You can say, hey, I think this is what I really need, or this is what I am asking of you. Are you willing to support that? And if they don't, what can you do to take care of yourself? My fitness, my movement regimen was really, really important. I needed a lot of meditating time. So I used to listen to a ton of Abraham Hicks. I would just go on YouTube. I'd hit play. I'd listen to a 15-minute piece on Abraham Hicks. I downloaded a couple meditating apps. When things got intense, I stepped away and did, a mini nap, a quote unquote mini nap without falling asleep. Unplugged. Let my mind float somewhere else until everything settled back down. But you get to decide what you let in and when. You get to decide, am I ready to handle this right now? Can I maintain who I want to be? Which, who does Erica want to be? Erica wants to operate from a place of love and abundance. She wants to extend grace to other people. Am I giving myself what I need to be able to operate from that? In the moment I get a little snippy, because I am a little fiery and a little snippy, I know that I'm not giving myself what I need. In fact, on this trip, traveling with a partner is very different than traveling solo. And so it was a really good experience to challenge some of the beliefs that I had set up for myself, or how I wanted to flit and float through international travel, and what his expectations are. There were a few times on the trip when I needed to step away. So I love a lot of decompression time, a lot of quietness, a lot of magic, a lot of float. And we really did 10 days across Ireland, which I loved, but I would not recommend driving that much, because there's a lot of like drive into a city, you got one day in a city, drive into the next city. And so it didn't have the downtime that I needed. And then you're out and you're in the pubs and you're talking to other people, or there's music playing, and everything got really loud. And so as I got tired, as I was constantly searching for where's the cafe or the pub or the restaurant that we can eat in, all of the things got to be too much. And I had to step away. And I had to look at my partner and say, I need to go back to the hotel and decompress. You are welcome to stay, but I need to go because I need to get out of here, and I'm getting short and I'm getting snippy. That was my boundary. Didn't mean I demanded that he take me back or we do something different or any of those pieces. I just stood there and said, hey, I can't do this anymore. I need to go take care of me, because I know that when I don't take care of me, I'm not very fun to be around. There were a couple sessions I wasn't so fun to be around. I was tired. I was overwhelmed. I felt like crap. I had to go take care of me so that I could be back to the person I wanted to be. There's another piece that might feel a little bit counterintuitive when everything feels so uncertain. And that's the long-term aspect of this. If your breath work, if you're regulating your nervous system, if acknowledging it's hard, extending grace, that's our short term. Our short-term tool is the shift. Do your breath work. Get back into the present moment. At the same time, being able to move on also comes with some long-term anchors. And I want you to start setting long-term anchors. And I know that especially for the woman who wrote in, she was literally like, I can't set any long-term goals because everything is still up in the air. And so these long-term anchors are not an action plan. I do not want you to action anything. It's not a 5-year strategy. It's not the 10 steps I need to take. It's not the, what action do I need to take in 5 seconds? Not what I'm saying. These are points on the horizon that you're slowly drifting towards. But what you have right now can be seen as a gift to be able to get clear on what you really want. So I don't want you to swim hard to get there yet. I don't want you to put all your effort into running towards the finish line, because getting the paperwork signed, it is just another start. Divorce is a marathon. It is not a sprint. It is not a sprint to the signature, because what comes after the signature is a whole lot of like, wow, everything and nothing has changed all at once. And I still have to go to work tomorrow, and I still have to make dinner for my kids tonight. And I still need to figure out what to do with the grief that's sitting so heavy on my heart. And that signed paperwork doesn't have anything to do with it. But this, the long-term anchors and giving yourself permission to dream, does. So what I want you to do, if you are stuck in a space of knowing that something is coming, but feeling a lot of resistance to getting there, set the resistance aside and say, okay, that's fine. Let's let that float in the sidelines for right now. I want to spend some time dreaming what the next chapter might look like. Let your mind wander. I spent so many of those little mini naps I talked to you about listening to Abraham Hicks, dreaming about what it could possibly look like. What did my house look like? What did it feel like driving home from work? What did my job feel like? What did my support system feel like? Little tiny snippets. I started to look at, where do I want to live? And the more specific I got, the more stressed I got, because how could I afford that? Or is that the right neighborhood? Or will we know anybody there? All the pieces. So I want you to stay relatively general as long as it feels good. I knew that I really wanted great lighting in the new house that I was going to pick. I knew that I really wanted to stop driving 30 minutes to get to a grocery store. Ironic, because now I'm back to driving 30 minutes to a grocery store. I knew that I wanted to have kids around, so I wanted to check out the neighborhoods and the school systems. I could start to pick up the puzzle pieces of what that part of my life was going to look like. Now, I house hunted for over a year. And when I finally found the place, I was actually down to under 30 days to be out of my current house and didn't have anything else lined up. Like, house was sold, the things were moving forward. I still hadn't found it, but I knew that I had been dreaming up what this was going to look like for years. A year of active searching, but a couple years of having fun with it. What was my place going to feel like when I walked in the door? Where was it situated? What did I experience when I found the right place? So when this townhouse popped up and I saw the pictures, it was the lightning bolt, and I knew, because I had spent the years dreaming it up. I knew what it was going to feel like. I went and visited it. We were inside the townhouse for under 15 minutes. The realtor was like, "Are you sure? Are you really done?" I'm like, "Yep, we're done. Write the paperwork. I know that this is it." And it was the right house for us for a lot of years till we outgrew it. The important piece, I didn't take action on it right away. I didn't move into a space of, I've got to find a space, and oh my gosh, nothing is working out, and I can't seem to get this piece to move forward. Instead, I said, it's not moving forward yet, which means my job is to have more clarity on what's going on. My job is to paint the picture with a little bit more detail. Because when we find the right things, when we line up to what we are in match to, things move very quickly. Closed in under 3 weeks. Everything about it, every realtor was like, that is unheard of. And I said, I know, but that's what happens when you do the work beforehand. Dream, let your mind wander. So let's see, where do you want to live? What do you want co-parenting interactions to look like? How do you want to feel at your job? Do you need to change jobs? What kind of a new job are you looking for? Pick out those same buckets that your mind is so worried on, that your mind feels like it can't move forward, and start to dream. Because what will come through is the feeling in your body. And just like the opposite end of that, right? The feeling in our body that creates all the anxiety, the worry, the nothing is changing yet. You can trigger the same positive feelings in your body of, oh my gosh, there's a little bit of magic, and that's a little bit of magic, and everything is falling into place at exactly the right time. Let your minds wander into what's possible. It doesn't mean you need to take action on it right away. In fact, I was having a conversation with my friend today too about the fact that when we don't know what we don't know, a lot of times we think we know what we want. We think we know that we want this specific neighborhood, or we think we know that we want to keep the house that we had in the marriage, but we haven't really run the path of what that looks like. I'm grateful that for the 2 years of my separation, I stayed in the house, because if I had to make that decision at the start of our separation, so like when I found out about the infidelity, if we had just instantly moved into divorce, I would have fought to keep the house. 2 years later, I did not want to have to mow the yard. I didn't want to pay somebody to mow the yard. I was so tired of cleaning rooms that nobody was ever in. It was too much house. It became very clear that this needed to go to a family that could fill it up, a family that was ready to repaint it and put all the little loving touches back into it. But if I had to make that decision quickly, I would have made the wrong one. So when you're in the gap, minding the gap, your job is to dream and wonder, if I stayed in this house, what would that look like every day? If I started to find something else, what would that look like every day? When your brain has been locked in a threat mode for so long, it forgets how to imagine. It forgets how to have fun. When your heart has been hurt, it's very scary to hope again, to hope and to want. And so as you start to daydream, as you start to imagine, as you start to play, if it gets scary, just tiptoe back a little bit. General, go general, go general. You've got too specific. You move too far into a specific idea and it triggered your body to think, oh, that's a lot of change. It's a lot of change. I can't do that. So tiptoe back out of it. Go a little general. I'll find the right house. I'll know it when I find it. And something feels really good about this house, but I'm not having the full body hell yes. Just imagine that's literally you regulating your nervous system. So when you dream, you shift out of survival mode into possibility and your brain gets a break from the emergency. So as best you can, use the pause, use the gap to have a little fun. Now, if you want to take it to an activity, grab your journal. No pressure, no perfect answers, but anytime we move something from visualizing and thinking about it, pondering about it, God, I love the word pondering. Years ago, I heard it in a class I used to teach corporately. It was a Franklin Covey class. And it was like, we need time to ponder. God, that's such a good word, and we need to bring it back. We need time to sit in stillness and to think and to reflect and to ask ourselves if that's what we really want. So you can ponder all day long, sitting anywhere you like, drinking your cup of tea or swinging in the backyard or walking with your kids. If you want to start to move it into more concrete, grab your journal. Start to write it out. I used to carry tiny journals for each topic that I was really trying to increase the momentum on. So I'd have one for relationships. And when I would see something or when I would dream about something, I would write it out. Like, oh my gosh, I'd have a visualization, a dream, a reflection on what it was going to be like for my son's next birthday. How did it feel to have a right partner there? How did it feel to be supported through that milestone day? What did it look like? The busyness, the chaos leading up to a kid's birthday party, and then the busyness of the party itself, and then the quietness that comes after when everybody goes home and you can just sit there with your partner. I'd visualize and daydream and play that thought out, and then I'd write it out in my little journal that was all about relationships. Don't edit it. Don't filter it. Don't ask if it's realistic. Just let the momentum build. Write about how it feels to have the things that you want. The clarity will come, but we have to give it somewhere to land. So the clarity is there when we remove the franticness, when we remove the false evidence appearing real, fear, when we remove the nervous system alarms that are going off. When you teach your nervous system, you are safe. This is okay, and we will get through it, then the clarity has room to breathe. If you are sitting in a space where the waiting feels unbearable, I want you to remind yourself that the in-between time is not wasted time. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it sucks. Yes, you're desperately wanting for this in-between to be over. But it's actually some of the most important time in the whole process, because it is here that you can line up to the new frequency, to the energy that you want to be, the momentum that you want to create. It is here where you get space to figure out who you want to be on the other side. Because when we rush through something, even though, it feels unbearable, we want this to be over, we want to be on the other side, we rush through it, we miss some of the key lessons in between. We miss the ability to get really clear on what we want. Because while the legal system or your ex is moving at a snail's pace, you get to decide who you are becoming. He doesn't control that timeline. The courts don't control that timeline. Only you do. So short-term anchors steady you in the storm. Long-term anchors give you something to drift towards. Grace for yourself, yes, even for your ex, and then wrap it all up in some beautiful boundaries to protect yourself and the woman you're becoming. If you are craving a container to be able to do this, to have the support, because I understand, do you really want to add another thing to your plate that you have to lead? I don't, even today. I love to find the right container, the space to sit in, a rhythm to return to every single month when it feels like it's too much. That is exactly what the Wild Woman was built for. It is a monthly container. Every month I send you journal prompts to get clear on who you are becoming. And then I send you a deep somatic practice to release the shit that we are carrying in our body. That somatic practice, that 45 minutes, regulates your nervous system, teaches your body that it is safe, allows you to create a connection with your heart, knowing your clarity, and gives you the ability to move forward in building your new life. It is less than a dinner out. It is every single month. We flow twice a month, new moon, full moon. It is less about the moon and more about the woman you are becoming. All of this chaos, all of this change, all of these hard moments are here to help you become who you are meant to be. There's a quote once, growth can be painful, and growth is painful when we are holding on too tightly. So every time things got hard, every time I sat in a space where I just really didn't think that I was going to be able to keep going, I reminded myself that I was just being asked to expand, to increase my capacity, to live at a different level, and that I would get through this as well. Sending you lots of love. Tiffany, thank you so much for sending in this request. My DMs are always open. If there is a topic that you're struggling with, or you're looking for an episode on a specific thing to help you through, just send me a DM. Happy to help you find it or record a new one so that you are supported. And that's it. Another great episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast for women learning how to heal from their divorce. Tune in next week for more advice and tips to help you figure out life after divorce. And until then, give yourself grace, do the best you can, and know that this is all part of the process.